Okay, now welcome to the Metastock walkthrough. Okay, the key aim here is to basically give you some instructions around how to use this and show you some of the key functionality. And I know there's a whole bunch of new guys that have got just got access to Metastock. I can see Shelley's there. Shelley, you'll have your access. I'd say during the New York session today, you'll get access. And Dejan the same. And yeah, all right. Okay, so let me just start on the charts, right? Because this is the first starting point you need to sort of get abreast of, is actually sort of working through your charts. Now, with the templates I have set up, there's a whole range of different templates I use, okay? And this is just a range of them. This one here is the global markets. Just to explain as well, I have a 3-screen layout. The charts are on my left. I've got the market data in the middle and the news on the right-hand side. And I'll put my trading platform up where I can sort of see what I need to be seeing at the right time. Now, I'll go through the charts, a bit of functionality, and then I'll come through and explain the rest of the templates as we go. They are designed to basically give me vision of what is actually active and happening in the market, and then I can get specific with either equity markets, say stock markets, commodities, and so forth. All right. So just initially, and the easiest way to do this, right, is just by going through the actual charts themselves. I've actually done some analysis today, but I was just noticing my tech page, I haven't actually updated the hourlies as yet. Now, there's just a couple of things. This is like, if you're a bit of a gamer, getting used to the controls, getting used to the game, all these sorts of things. That's exactly what we're doing here at the moment, right? So now, just on technical analysis and these sorts of things, we are doing a separate technical analysis course, but I just want to explain some of the key things up here that you need. Now, I shrink a lot of the menu down here, just so I can sort of see it when I shrink this screen up into its smaller components. Now, my screens are 27 inches. They seem to work fine for me. If you've got bigger ones, well, then that's actually more luxurious, right? And I know some of our guys in the recruit program, et cetera, have got like 6 screens. That may seem like overkill, but I can tell you what I could do with an extra 3 screens myself, just so I don't have to change screens when I'm looking at various instruments. Now, so coming back to this, there are a bunch of other tools that you can actually access on the side here. If you click this button, you can get a whole range of things. Now, we never used Metastock as a trading platform in the banks. Okay, we had Reuters Dealing 2000, EBS, and then go back into the early 90s. We just had voice brokers. So this platform does provide some sort of tradability, but we were never using it anyway. So some of the top things at the top here aren't really working. What we do have is, a range of things that I've sort of kept up. There are other components here that you might want to experiment with, but I've got exactly what I need. Now, just on the charts, okay, as I said, I don't want to go into too much about sort of drawing trend lines and these sorts of things, but let me just give you some access here. Now, up the top here, you've got this 3 blue lines, right? So just how to add an array, how to draw a trend line, or easily draw a trend line, is just click on it. Now, if you have a look here under the crosshairs, I do have the snap to point ticked, right? You've got to have that ticked, otherwise it's going to take forever to do your trend lines. You'll be trying to line them up. The idea of when I do my technical analysis, I generally put either some sport on or music, and I actually just zone out, right? The idea is not to get overly thrilled at this point. You're just sort of doing your homework, so to speak. This is your roadmap to where the markets have been and where they're potentially going. So just understanding where that, you're using array here at this point. You can use horizontal lines or Fibonacci's, whatever grabs your fancy. These are the components I use for, especially on the hourly charts, right? And here's another trend line. I'll go back as far as I can to find out the levels, but that's pretty much as simple as it is to drawing trend lines. Just up to the ray, click on it. When you've got that click to point ticked, you just got to get on the top part, find the next highest level, and click and shoot, right? And you can see here, this is the dollar index where it's sort of snapped above that level, and is sitting quite nicely. I wouldn't change that trend line just at the moment. If anything, I know this is a sort of more of a technical thing. I would actually, just so I know where the top of the market is and what the last line is, I would probably add that and just change the line to a yellow. So I know that's the last sort of resistance level on the top side, but this is the level that really broke through, right? Because it's got, you get the 1, 2, and you'd say this is the third touch, snap through, broke through that resistance line, acting as support, now drifting sideways. You got a bit of a weaker trend line, the top side to work with, and a level on the downside, which may come into play today, actually, if we get some weaker US numbers following those US ones. Now, these buttons up here, okay, are important to sort of zooming in and zooming out, right? So this one here obviously pulls the data in together, and you can see, you can sort of shrink it right across. There's a certain amount of data that you can get on the hourlies. If you wanted to find out the highs beyond this, you would change the time frame to dailies, okay? And then you can start to get a real scope of, what the real big levels are on the bigger time frame. And just get it on that level. Now, one thing, if you're having trouble finding a spot, there's a green box here, modify zoom area, right? You can just zoom into that spot. Say it was over here. You can just grab the point, go to there. Then up the top here, this box here, best fit, right? It'll tell you display best fit, and then you can come back and find out what that level is. So that's a good way. If you're looking to find the deeper levels, you can come into those charts. I mean, you can go back a bit further on the daily charts. But once again, I'm just going through the hourly charts to sort of try and find out the key levels. To widen out the chart, just that one there. To shrink it in, on the scale on the top, you can actually take things up, take it down. If your chart gets all bent out of shape, which it will sometimes, just come back to the display best fit, this one here, and it will just pop it back for you, right? Straight into where it was. And then, you know what, if you want to see a bit more time frame on your screen, just zoom in a little bit. Okay. I've got a question here from John. Are there keyboard alternatives for the expand shrink functions? That's a good question, John. I've never used it. You know what? I've always used a mouse, and I've never used the keyboard functions. But
okay.
Sorry. Yep.
No. I was just wondering because I don't know. It just sometimes your hands are just on the keyboard, and I figure they're
yeah. Well, actually, you can actually, I can move the data. I'm just moving the data here with my arrows at the moment, so I can move it up and down.
Oh, okay. All right.
I just don't think I'll have to look into it, but there must be some other ones too to shrink it up. But I can do everything. I can move it left and right, but I just can't shrink it or expand it by the looks of things.
Oh, there's an answer.
All right, we got one. Oh yeah, Control plus or Control minus for zoom.
Oh, nice.
Nice one, Mario. Okay, so let's go into that actually. Oh, that's
Aussie yen.
What was that? Aussie yen? Is there a crosshair for the charts? Yes, there is. Okay, so let's just have a look at the. Let me just come back to best fit. Now, this is a good question actually, because when you've got the snap to point ticked, right, which I'm suggesting you do, you want to make your analysis as quick and easy as possible. Sitting around, like in the old days when I started in 1990, you'd roll out a 30-foot bit of chart paper and have guys drawing in pencil on it, right? It'd take an hour to do each currency. Now, if you take the snap to point off, right, that's when you can start to use the crosshair. Now, there's a couple of things here. See how it's like gravitating to the highest point? I don't necessarily like that, but that's because the snap to point goes back on. Just take it off when you've got the thing up, and then you can move it around. You can put it on your levels, find out. It'll tell you, I've actually, my vertical one is a bit black, but horizontally 106.24. You can put it on any levels, or if you actually prefer snap to point, you can come back and just click, like you just move it across the range of the instrument and you can find your levels that way. Okay. Now, just to turn it off, you hit the snap to point again and it is off, but you'll have to come back and add it. The snap to point, the crosshairs will go off. So just work with that as you go forward. Another thing that you can do with the templates and the color scheme, right? I've just got the recent, where the instrument is set with a little color icon there on my right hand axis there. So so that sort of shows me that. Now there's another one at the top here as well. This button here, right, which is another good one to give you the data. Well, hang on, the data. This one here. Sorry, let me just get off that. Okay, this puppy here, you can get the highs and lows, etc., or where they the open, high, low, where the trend line is, and what levels are touching it as you go forward there, right? So that's something you might want to sort of have a look at if you've got sort of certain levels on your charts. The other thing is, if I've got other trend lines on this chart and it's not just at these levels, it'll show them all, right? So I've drawn quite a few here, which are above and below the market, which I would normally do. I would sort of just leave them there. So so just coming back to that, it does show you all levels. So I sort of have it on sometimes, not other times. But now if I wanted to modify the chart properties, title, legend, mainly the display, if you want to change your colors, chart split, I mean, you can do all sorts of things, session times. You can put session times in here as well. So you can, see what happens in the various sessions. Not a bad thing to do, to experiment with that, because you can start to see a bit more shape around the fluctuations between the various time zones. So that's that button next to best fit. And you can go Monday to Friday, Tuesday. I mean, anyway, you can have a fiddle with that. That's some of the key stuff. Now you can sort of, with the range of the chart, you can make it just 5 days, 10 days. A lot of people ask me when I'm drawing trend lines, how much data do I like to have, from the time I draw the trend line? I say generally like a week. 10 days is a good range. But in all honesty, I like to see as much data as I can. I like to see where it's come from, the instrument. Okay, it gives me a bit more scope, a bit more, like everything's visual with this Metastock, right? So you can see where it's come through. You can see the moves, the cut, the breaks. I know it's sitting up here, not necessarily exhausted, but it's looking a bit fatigued, room for a move to the downside. And I can sort of see the scope of how far it could potentially go if we start to see some, a weaker dollar, whether it's from the data or just from the general market itself. Okay, now analysis. You can overlay analysis on this thing. You can add, your various, some people might like Bollinger Bands, various indicators. I've never been a big fan of filling my charts up with various indicators, but I tell you what, it doesn't sort of stop me learning from traders who are using some things, combining them to sort of almost increase your probability of success by adding a specific indicator. It can, potentially enhance your outcome. So there's a range of things you can do there. You can insert analysis quite easily just by clicking on this, and you get the button. So you can come back down here, you can see you got a whole range of instruments. I can put, for instance, bar open, high, low. I could come in here and overlay dollar Swiss here. What we got here? Add, okay, I can sort of add it on top. And what I can do, because it's dollar Swiss, is what have we got here? What am I on? Oh, the dollar index. Okay, well, these two would correlate. I thought I had euro up there for a second, but you can actually put dollar Swiss over the dollar index quite easily. And if you want to remove it, you just click on it and hit delete, right? Now, this is something you might want to experiment with, because at various times around sort of the way the news is coming out, whether it's US dollar news or Swiss news or wherever the direction of the drive might be for the move, you can actually come back in, and I do this quite frequently, start experimenting with, okay, what's driving what? And I'll change and go through various number of majors, equity markets, anything that's in here that's moving that looks like it's correlating with, say, the dollar or something else. I will go through and just add that analysis and put it up there. Now, one important thing up here is the undo button, right? So if you do make mistakes, you know, back when this first came out, there wasn't the undo button. We used to just shut it down without saving it. You get it back up again. But I tell you what, if you've already done a lot of analysis on a lot of things and you haven't saved it, you got to go back and do it all again, right? So that's the button there. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Now, I won't sort of go into too much about sort of the color schemes here I use for the various charts, but you know, you can actually move these charts around. Now, I use the old Flex documents, right? And the people that have accessed my templates here have got access to these Flex docs as well, right? It used to be just, you know, they've taken them off the mainstream charts. If you go up the top here now and you go into your charts, you do get a different screen. Let me just get this up, right? Some of them are trading view charts, and I don't know what else they're using, but there was actually was a different one of that I was sort of looking for. Analytics. I'll probably find one of my other templates. I got rid of them all because I liked the shape of the older charts. Now my color schemes here are probably unique to myself, just because, you know, we're in the old days, we had these tiny screens. I had black screens with like yellow or white. And I used to just do my head in after like 20 years. So I wanted some color. So if you want to do update your color schemes here, you can do that as well. Just right click on the chart. You can go into, and there's a whole range of things you can do here too. Sorry, I should have explained that. If you right click on the charts, you can go through all your chart properties. Okay, get back into there, or you can set up alerts, manage alerts on certain levels. You can go into a split mode, whether I want to break this chart into 4 different components or 2 by 2. Probably really depends on your screen. Like a screen like this would be 4 would be okay. Okay. Interval range, we've sort of been through that. Unit conversions. Down here, options. Then you got down here at the options section. You got the templates and the schemes, right? So you can either save a template on a specific chart, and then once you go to other charts, you can sort of replicate it. Or the scheme is the color scheme, right? This is where I've saved my color schemes. So once again, if you've got my templates and you want similar colors, half your luck, then you would go into these color schemes, and you can revise them or just get them up. I think the light blue BBG is the one I've been using. But there's a whole range of different things you can find in there, right? And that's, so everything you save in this, it's such a big program, and if you've used it for the first time and you haven't got enough capacity, then you know you need a bit more RAM, Now, let me just come back. There's a few more questions here. Now, what would you say after the main advantages? Okay, yeah, William's got a good question here. Just what would you say are the main advantages of Metastock in comparison to TradingView? Do you also connect a broker to Metastock so you trade straight from Metastock? Now, you can't trade straight from Metastock. That's a bit of an issue. I would be considering Quant Tower as a substitute. We have been sort of looking into that for some time. Is transferring everything over. I guess, William, the main thing is why I use Metastock is I'm extremely familiar with it. I've been using it for probably 16, 17 years. It's just comfortable. It is a pain in the backside. There's a bunch of things here, right? Now, say for instance, this is one of the annoying things that I've spoken. We were always sending in to the Metastock developers things to fix, like that snap to point, basic things. And we got a lot of things developed years ago. Now they've seemed to have pulled up stumps a bit, especially after it's been on-sold about 3 or 4 times. But, you know, if I update this Aussie chart, you can link certain charts, but I'd love it if I updated my Aussie chart here, it would update my Aussie template over here. It just doesn't do it, right? You can link news and different screens. If I'm looking at an economic calendar, for instance, I can link that to a chart. So if I click on a specific country, it'll give me the chart for that country. But that's, you know, we're getting a bit technical. TradingView, I like TradingView for all the data it's got. Once again, it's just more familiarity with the charting system here on Metastock and the analysis and the rates here on Metastock are from EBS and Reuters, right? The major broking services that the banks use for liquidity, right? You go back to TradingView, you're choosing a specific broker, retail broker for your pricing, and it's inaccurate, right? Whatever they're, you know, this is like it's not like used car salesman, but basically once you start going down the chain, you go from the banks or the main liquidity providers, which is the banks, say to the prime brokers, then to brokers. You're the third wheel down the track. So by the time you get their data, they've added or taken off bits and pieces to it, slowed it down, widened it out, all these sorts of things. So it's not pure data, right? Pure pricing, what I like to see. Marianne's got a question. Metastock compacts information very well. What in TradingView, you have to click forever to get into details. Yeah, that's right, Mario. It is. It's a bit of a pain to execute. Dejan, there, one question. Why do you use volume on your charts? Why don't you? Well, it's not accurate. How do you personally recognize institutional investors? How do I personally recognize institutional investors? So I'm just not totally sure what you mean. I know, like all the guys in all the banks I worked at, we all had Metastock, right? Funnily enough, Bloomberg, the sales guys had Bloomberg just to communicate with other fund managers and this, that, and the other. But Bloomberg was so much more expensive that they didn't really dish it out to everyone. So with the volume, no institutional or no bank wants to give out the volume that they're doing, right? It's their secret sauce. How much business they're doing, they're not going to tell you that. So I know some of the brokers have volume on their charts and things, which, you know, it can give you a bit of an estimate of what's happening and where the volume is moving at that time. That's not a bad thing, but I don't like to see things that I don't need to see, right? I know that like Monday morning, Friday afternoon in New York, volume is shrinks, right? And I know at the end of the New York session for about an hour and a half, volume diminishes. Outside of that, it's pretty standard. Let's go to my, this is better for institutional ticker data. It's a bit of a shame that Metastock doesn't include it. Yeah, now Metastock have actually taken a few things off, okay? But one thing that you can do up here, right? So I've got a template here at the top called text, right? This is where this is all my technical levels for everything that I look at or I want to look at, right? Now, one thing, and this is sort of a bit of a coaching session, one thing that you want to be careful of is is trying to look at and try and cover everything, right? Which I sort of generally do because I like to sort of look across all things. But I tell you what, unless I was a robot, I wouldn't be able to tell you what's going on in every currency. I sort of generally know with the major currencies, gold maybe as well. And you can see sort of getting belted at the moment. Oil, some of the equity indices, NASDAQ, even the cryptos, Bitcoin. Like this gives me a good cross section. If I come back to my global markets page, I will be looking at this, and they're called the majors because this is where the majority of volume is and trading activity. There's more structure to the majors than there are to the crosses and to other minor instruments, right? That's sort of why it's a bit easier to trade them because there's consistency, there's statistics, they move in a certain fashion. So that's what we sort of like to see. But at the same time, this is where you're going to use your own personal risk appetite, the instruments you like to trade. I put things, and I'll show you across my cross section of screens here in a moment. I like to see everything. So if I'm looking at, say, just global markets here, right, which is a different one to the majors here, I've got the dollar index, euro, gold, oil, Dow Jones Mini, S&P Mini, the NASDAQ, and Bitcoin, right? I just like to have a bit of a look, gives me a bit of a cross section around where's the money sort of going, what's happening with various instruments, and what's happening with what. Like to me, I see a big move, sell off in gold. I'll be quickly having a look at gold in like seeing exactly what's happening, and then try and work out what's correlating with it as well. Because as far as the commodities go, I mean, they do like to sort of move together. And if one hasn't fully moved yet, well, then you can sort of jump on it. This is the advantage of having, just having that snap to point, right? Once I get those levels, just blow the chart out quickly. Not that you need to sort of do it super quick, but it just makes it, you can get on with what you want to do, which is find out where that last key level is. And you can see where it's, like if you had done your homework beforehand, and we've been sort of waiting for some moves here, and specifically on something like gold, right, which has had a great run and now sort of coming down. You can see this move here where it sort of just cracks straight through the trend line. Now, you have to be abreast of that, right? If gold was one of my favorite instruments, I wouldn't have missed it, but it's not. It's not necessarily one of my favorites. So not at the moment anyway. So that's interesting. I'll come back. No movement on the safe havens. So there's nothing sort of going on there. Okay. And this is where, understanding Metastock is good because I can actually just come straight into commodities and start to look at all the commodities. Okay. I've got charts for all these: gold, silver, copper, that's iron ore, and the Brent crude and light crude. I can sort of see what's going on there as well. Obviously, the relationship between gold and silver, it's pretty close. You can see copper going as well. Like copper is probably the biggest correlating instrument for the Aussie dollar. For those that didn't know, so you can start to see a bit of a picture here, right? So if I was looking at these things, and then I come back and go, okay, well, that's great. Let me, I want to see what's happening, and I'll just have to change screens to show you. But what we've got here is I'd be looking at the commodities, right? I already see them moving. Now they've already sort of done most of the move, right? But, and oil isn't going with it. They're outside the box, but the rest of the commodities are going. If anything, that Chinese iron ore hasn't moved as much. Does it go? Does it not? Then you got to try and find a platform where you can trade these instruments as well. Right. So, but I've just gone from my charts. And so this is the middle page of my global markets page. Now, I shrink things up so I can actually see, or not shrink things up, just there's a lot of duplication I use on different pages where I just want to see various things. So if I want to see something that's on a different template, I'll just put it on this one as well. And here's an old follow the trail, which allows me to sort of see very clearly the relationship between the various, financial markets, looking at US equities, coming to the currencies, look at the commodities, risk on, risk off currencies, safe havens. I've got the oil trade at the bottom, US treasuries, then you got some currencies, right? So this isn't too dissimilar to my global markets, which is a bigger overall picture of all equity markets, then the currencies, commodities, the yen, and then a range of other things. And I've got some other ones on the back burner here. So it just makes it easier for me if I want to see just a brief outlook of whether that risk on, risk off sentiment is on or not. Then I can come back, just focus on equities, the major cryptos. Now, for you, William, you might want to add a whole range of all your cryptos here. You can have as many as you like. And then also I'll have the economic indicators up here as well. Some of these numbers were, it's better than expected. That's weaker. Maybe the same. So I'm just having a look at that data. The, sterling was up. Now it's just sort of drifting back a bit. So, but that's the beauty. Well, if I had more screens, I'd actually have some of this data on the other screens, to be honest. FX volume heat map, right? This one here, this is like a bit of fluff, right? At the main part of the day, say of the European session, of course, it's busy, right? And outside, say in the Asian session, nothing's happening. So I think it's a bit of it's a good one for retail traders to show their friends and go, I'm looking at the markets here and they're very busy. But really, you know what? It's the same every day. I do keep this one up here and it doesn't come into play a huge amount. This is probably a little bit of fluff, but you can zoom in, zoom out. When the hurricane season is in the States, it's sort of good to keep track of, where the cyclones are and all that sort of stuff. Once again, it's just things that I stick somewhere for a specific event. Now, you can set these pages up yourself if you haven't got access to my templates. Can you set alerts on correlations if two instruments reach 80%? That's something that would be worth experimenting with for sure, John. You probably could. I'll have to have a look into that, but that's actually a pretty good one. Mario is saying that you can use the correlation indicator and base alerts of it, but it's more of a manual thing. That's right. So if you come over here this is part of my FX template. I do have the correlation matrix in here as well. You can actually set up these lists yourself to find out what's correlating with what. So if I change this back to, say, currencies and recalculate it, you can sort of find out what instruments are really moving with what over specific times. Euro
dollar.
Nice. So basically that's just sort of calculating there, and you can sort of see here, obviously the red stuff, and you can set up these scales as well. So I was going to try and find out where that pen is. Anything in the red, right? Euro, obviously in the dollar and the dollar index, that's going to be opposite, very high. But the Aussie and the dollar index through the roof at the moment there as well. So these are things that you can actually come into, have a look and just go, you know what? I don't need to look too hard across the screens at all my charts. I can go into the correlation sort of matrix here and find out what's moving with what very quickly, right? If I slide that across, you can start to see the various instruments. I've got a load of crosses in there as well. And the easiest thing to do is actually just make it bigger. So that's something you can do there. Now, over time, and this is, as I said, I've been using this for well over 15 years. The majors, I've got things that you probably look at once in every a while, like the majors. Okay, relative strength on the hourlies. I like to see this a lot. What's happening, because usually on the currencies, there's one or two pairs that are super stretched, right? At the moment, CAD is down 0.8%. Okay. And that's over the course of what, a week, something like that. And you've got Aussie up 0.61%. That's not too bad. Okay. So Aussie's doing all right. The CAD is doing all right. Then there's a couple of, there's what, euro. What isn't moving, right? Dollar yen. Okay. The beast. The dollar yen itself is not really budging, and dollar Swiss is not far off it. So that just gives you a good idea of what's moving and what's not, what could potentially move further if something happened. And if it's stretched and the news comes out the opposite, you know it could get a big ricochet, and you can come back and look at that on a daily basis as well. Now, a lot of these components I'm showing you here, if I just come back, get the right screen, up the top here, you want to familiarize yourself. And I would say if you want to get used to using Metastock, start trying to build some of these things yourself. And like these tickers, right? You can actually easily do that. If you come in, so even if you've got my templates, I would encourage you to do this because it'll allow you to sort of build things in that actually mean something just to you, right? Because so if I come into this, go to monitor, okay, and that'll pop up somewhere on one of my pages here. That's how it generally works. Let me have a look around. Is it behind there? No. Okay. Let's have another go here. Okay, at the top, if I click monitor, right, where did you go? These things usually open up in other monitor screens. I'm just trying to see across my pages here where they are, but I've got all the chat stuff up here, so I can't actually sort of see a lot of it. Now, William's got a question. Do you trade all currencies or do you trade a specific few that move for the day? Well, that's a good question, William. And you'll get a bit more understanding about that when you sort of get through the sort of main part of the course. But basically, certain currencies move at certain times of the day, right? During the Asian day, you would generally be focusing on the Asian instruments like dollar Sing, Aussie, Kiwi, dollar yen in normal conditions. You get into Europe, you're looking mainly at euro and sterling, okay? And that's the way the world works, right? But what you can do, say, for instance, if in the Asian session, Aussie's going up, right, and so is Kiwi, well, you can be pretty sure that euro and sterling would be going up just because of the way they correlate, right? So if you want the real move, you go to the instrument that is moving in that time zone, okay? That's the sort of, that's the breast of it. So what I've got is on these templates, I've set them up for specific currencies, right? So if I wanted to focus in on the Aussie, right, I've got all the charts, all the Aussie crosses on the left-hand side. If I come back to my middle screen, I have the Aussie data by itself. Okay, so I can blow that up. I can sort of see what all the Aussie data is. I've also got the Chinese data in here as well, because that impacts the Aussie data quite aggressively. I've got the Aussie relative strength. Okay, if I can just get that up. And that's the Aussie and all the Aussie crosses. And I have this on all the instruments, right? So I can see if Aussie's moving, okay, aggressively, I can actually sort of work out what cross could potentially be the biggest mover. Like if Aussie sterling is up 1%, and look at all the others that haven't hardly moved. Well, okay, if there's bad Aussie news, we've got CPI out tomorrow. That could be a good instrument to be selling Aussie sterling tomorrow because it's so overdone just at the moment, right? And you can have a look at that on the hourlies as well. So all these little bits of data that come into play really can give you a little bit more of an edge than, say, looking at another analysis system. And this is where I can't understand, right? Like there's a lot of traders that I've come across that just use like MetaQuotes, right? They've got like some old dated news. They've got the charts that aren't accurate because the data is incorrect. The trend lines are out. There's a whole range of issues with that. But here with this Aussie chart, just as an example, as I said, I've got this up for all the different instruments. I've got all the relevant Aussie data there. I've got the Aussie bonds. I've got the Aussie crosses. I've got general equity markets, Asian equities and Australasian equities. And if I just come across here to the third screen, I had to just move a few things. Where are we? Okay, then I've just got the news in relation to the various instruments, right? So that's Aussie dollar news. Then let me just move this thing here. We've got the, okay, I can look at all the Aussie data itself in relation to what the central bank's doing, the, all the various instruments, crosses, news, all the data, etc. And let me just find where clear my screen. Okay, then I've got the news over here. Okay. You've got Australian and Kiwi news. Once again, I've got the economic monitor. If I want to sort of quickly have a look at a few things, central bank overview, what they're looking at with the RBA policy, okay, where the policy's at, what their inflation rate is. You get a bit of a snapshot of the data. Everything you need to be prepared for a release is here, okay? What the dollar's doing and the all ordinaries, the Aussie exchange. Interest rate probabilities. I don't think they're doing a bit of work on it. Like they seem to sort of go and do some things and then sort of don't finish it. I know there's a broad amount of data here to get, but the, no change expected from a lot of these guys, except from the Banco Central de Brazil and Reserve Bank of India, right? The rest of them aren't doing anything just at the moment. But hopefully that changes, because when it does, that creates more opportunities for us. Okay, so just coming back, I just want to bring you back across a bit. Just losing track of where my webinar features are. Okay, that one there. Okay, so just back to this main thing at the top here. So you can go through and find all sorts of things, right? If you're monitoring data, you can set up your monitor, economic monitor as well. You can set up your own quote list, look for the different markets. You can see more apps here. And this has just come across over to here. As I said, when you click on these apps, they're called, they will open up in another screen somewhere. You just got to go and find them where they've opened up. So you can actually sort of go in here and there's a whole range of other things besides the main features they have. So charting, you can have, anything from the Chinese interactive map right through fundamental charts. You can knock yourself out here. There's so much data. You will probably use about 5%, if you're lucky, of the data on these screens that Metastock provides, right? There's just so much. That's why the dealing rooms have big teams of traders to focus on individual components, because not everyone, you just can't cover enough instruments. But if you want to have a look through the markets, if you are like a stocks trader, you can come in and focus in on, companies, news and research. You can combine those. You can do a whole lot of things. Brexit, what a nightmare that was. The Reuters top news, breaking news, all these news services, right, which we look at a lot, are important. If I go to, right, where's this going to open up? Go over here, right? This is the sort of news. This is the main news I would use for on my right-hand screen, right? So you can go into all different sectors, the main news, front page. You can change these. I like to see a few pictures, but if you don't like that, you can actually just go in and see the actual headlines. I like to see a bit more of a picture, and you can scroll up and down. Then you can go into like the breaking news. I have about 3 or 4 of these, right? So just so I can see different news at different times, and then you can go into different instruments, commodities, companies, industries, markets, like foreign exchange news. You can get all the news up there, and you can go through specific stuff there as well, or you can nail it down into specific regions, right? So you can start to see some scope here why you need multiple screens, right? And why you have multiple templates, because you want to, like, you should really have a template. I think, William, you were just asking there before, you can have a template for each of these, or the major ones anyway: Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Southeast Asia, UK, United States, whatever you want to call it. I should have US and Canada together, but this is like, this will keep you in check. So as I said, or I didn't really say, this is a news and analysis platform. Okay, so the idea is to provide you with everything that you need to be able to trade certain instruments. And what we're trying to do is, by looking at all this data, is we're trying to improve our probability of success, so we know which, if the current direction is going to hold, if it's likely to turn around, or something else, right? That's why generally, if you combine the news here, and if I just come back over here, gonna get my pen back up, right?
Euro
So
dollar.
if you're looking at the say the Aussie data, and you're looking at the screens here, and you want to find out what's going on, is there news that's going to impact, say, foreign exchange or regions, Australia, New Zealand. I can come back in, see if there's any positive or negative news coming out, see if that's going to impact anything. And then when I sort of scroll down and I come back into looking at the CPI data, which is coming out tomorrow, I can make a better judgment call on whether this thing could go up or down. I can come back across to my charts. I can have a look across a cross section of different, like the Aussie against the US, okay, which I would just generally call the Aussie, and see what's going on there. Or if I didn't like the impact of the dollar, then you start to come back through and go through the crosses on the hourly. I've got Aussie Kiwi, Aussie Yen, Aussie Swiss, blah, 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 all of them there. And then it can go into specifically into the 4 different, like hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, if you want to, on those pairs as well, right? So you can basically fine tune this to the nth degree, and this will improve your overall probability. This is why, like 90% of the time, you're doing analysis, right? That's all you're doing. And you're trading for about 10%, if that. So that's why this platform is, or another one, or any other platform of analysis is important for you to use, or know how to use it, right? So let me just get the chat up here, because I don't want to miss what you guys are talking about. Don't tell me I deleted it. Yeah, chat. Here we go. All right. Yeah, actually, Mario's just saying there, I don't know if you guys are reading it. This is actually something I did years ago. The strategy is to pick pairs with the largest divergence, as Forex is more or less zero sum. So according to the chart, Aussie CAD would be the thing to pick. This is very powerful in picking the pair that moves, or that will move. That's right. So now any other questions there, guys? Because as I said, we could run this for several hours. What I want to do is mainly show you how to the key to getting started using Metastock, especially when you've got my templates. You can actually, you're up to speed straight away, and you're using everything very quickly. The main things that I want you to understand, and specific for the guys in the recruit program, is understanding how to make analysis easy using these features here. As we go through the program, and as you other traders get more experienced, and you get this this platform up, it will be new. I mean, you can see me clicking away very quickly. As I said, I've got well over 15 years experience on this platform. It will take you a little bit of time to get used to things, right? But and then you got to work out, okay, not only how to use this, but then put your knowledge of the market into play to get the best outcome for you, for your trading opportunities, right? So there's a lot to learn, both market-wise, and then how to analyze the market properly. Now, each of these templates up the top here, each of them will give me, well, actually not that one there. The detailed overview of the dollar, the yen, dollar CAD, euro, sterling, Aussie, Kiwi, Swiss, and I've got a few more in there as well. But you can only have a certain amount of them open. If I go in, see more workspaces, right? This is all my workspaces, which you should have access to. Maybe no, you wouldn't, because there was only a certain amount we could get in there. I've actually got some specific ones for when I'm on the road. I've got my own laptop versions, right? So, which are for one screen. I've shaped them up to be just right for my 17-inch laptop. So these are things that you will work out how to do. And don't forget, there's no limitations here on what you can analyze. And every person will have a different favorite currency. Like some of us may have the same, but when it comes down to either trading, say, cryptos or exotics, you can actually come through here and go through. Like, don't think the exotics, there's not cash in them. There is. Okay, the Scandies, Dollar ZAR. We've got lots of South African traders that pick the eyes out of that all the time. Okay, so you'll notice, well, there's not a big thing to sort of show you, but you can see I had global markets here. It would just have dropped off onto there because I'm at my limit of how many templates I can have open. Now, if you don't have a lot of RAM in your system, I would say just take off the like, you don't need to have all these templates open. I just leave them open because I've got a chunky computer that can handle plenty of power there, right? So yeah, and that's where we are with the currencies and just analyzing the markets, being able, because once you've got these things up, okay, that's when you can start to come back. This is where, if you've already got the course, access to the course, this will complete, like it brings the course to life, because now you need the course and Metastock. And that's why we've included the Metastock package, because you need to be able to work out, get this up, look at the course, go, this moves with that. If we're looking for risk on, risk off, what happens with the currencies? Are the bonds the actual driver of the markets, or is it a specific instrument? You can see euro and sterling going through the roof there, having a good day, which is good because that sets us up nicely for, and you can sort of see just the ease here with which I can sort of see what's going on. And if I just change my screen here, I can come over here, see what the, when those US numbers are coming out, and that could be a chance here. We get weak numbers in the US, well, then we're going to see a decent upward move across euro, sterling, Aussie, Kiwi. They're already moving. This is what I was talking about today in today's trading action video, was if we just get the right data, the trade is there and the cash is there. That's all we need. Now, is there a chance for this data to come out weak? Maybe, but all the US numbers have been strong. So, you know, I'm hopeful that you get weak numbers, but just, I'd sort of say it's most likely they're going to come out as expected, if not strong. But it doesn't stop me dreaming for the best setup. And we've already got a move there. I was sort of saying at the start of this week, when we're looking at the instruments, we do have a good calendar this week, good second tier numbers where, you know what, the currencies do not, and this is what you got to understand as well as you trade a bit more, the currencies do not explode on second tier or third tier numbers, right? It's more of a leisurely walk. Let's go for a walk, right? That's why, and there's actually quite a few of our traders that have been around for a while who some have had some success looking at the big numbers and at the same time some failures, me included. Sometimes it's nice to go for a walk and just cash in some biscuits on some second tier numbers, right? Especially when there's no trend lines around. That's when that can really come into play. But having your chart, having an analysis tool like this allows you to go through that setup, right? I've even got a profile there on my charts here for risk on, risk off. And I've just got the sort of risk on, risk off pairs, the risk pair, or it's so-called at the top, dollar CAD, and then the equity markets. So I can sort of see what's going on across the board there as well. As I said, I do have different things duplicated across templates.
Subscribe.
It just saves me going back and forward onto one template to find it on another one. And that's where the benefit of more screens, more RAM, get this thing working as hard as it can, because it will, the resources you have, you'll be kicking yourself when you put a trade on it will, you can potentially get a better outcome by just doing better analysis. Mario's just asking there, does Metastock no longer offer the Reuters deal? I just checked on the website. They now charge the same as Reuters does, $1,100. That's right. I'm actually going to get the data, the full package, and set up my own page. I think there's quite a few companies now who are pulling all the data. Like, I think it's actually a joke that Bloomberg and Reuters have a moratorium on economic numbers, right? It's like, I all blow up about OPEC and everything else, but how about these two companies owning the data, which is run by the government, which is ludicrous. So that's where we are. The any questions before we sort of wrapped up? I will put this online, this video, so you can actually go back through it and have a look. I mean, some of you might want to shape some of this stuff. You might want to do set up your own things. Don't forget, when it comes down to the news, I actually don't mind reading the financial market news, because it's just more factual around who said what, who did what. I'm not really into opinion pieces, right? I don't need someone's opinion whether these things go up or down. I just need the facts. And I've got the rest of the data in front of me to back up what the facts are doing to the market. Yeah, well, that's right. Marius is saying, yeah, with Zenith Access, you can see all this data, but paying $1,000 for it, not sure if it's worth it. Well, this actually data here is $110 a month, right? So that's it's not bad. $1,000 or $1,200 for the year to get this access is pretty good, I think. But $1,100 a month, it's sort of like getting steep, right? I had when I came out of the banks, I had Bloomberg up, and I think it was 25,000 US a year. Minimum contract was 2 years, and the Aussie dollar dropped 40 cents. So it went to like almost 38,000 it cost me per year. And so I end up trading to hedge the cost of Bloomberg. And you don't want to get into that situation, I'll tell you. So I know. Yeah, it's only $110 a month, this setup, Mario. So check the website there. We've got a link there on the resources for it, right? So yeah, so that's pretty much a bit of a wrap. I think I've sort of showed you a lot of things. As we go forward, the people in here who are clients, I will be doing a lot more work with you on finding out how to use this analysis, piecing it together. This is where, looking at those daily videos I do as well, it'll start to make sense around what I'm looking at and why I'm looking at certain things, right? And if you don't understand it, by all means, jump on the Discord channel there, and you can get your questions answered. That's the whole scope of this, right? So we want to make sure that everyone's up to speed, whether you've got questions on technical analysis or any of the different pieces, and there is a Metastock section here. That would be the main one, right? Because you know what, as I said, I've been using this a long time, and I'm still learning new things all the time about how to use things, how to get different things up. And it's a good idea to get going on it. All right. Okay, guys. Well, that's a bit of a wrap. I mean, if I do come back, let me just see if I can get that page up here. Okay, yeah, I can. This is where you can actually find the deal here. Go into Reuters, come down to Metastock icon, and there's a link in there that'll give you the setup. Or, you know what, if you're into actually doing this the full way, you come in and buy the Financial Markets Trading Masterclass, and not only will you get educated, but we will cover the first 3-month subscription, get our trade tools and access to the Discord, right? So that connects you to the market, right? Not only having the tools to actually do your analysis, but get someone to sort of help coach you around how to use it, how to understand it, what it means, put the trade into play and back it up. All right. Thanks, Dajan. Thanks everyone else. Good to have you online. We're going to do lots more of these presentations. If you check out the event calendar, the live trading sessions, well, that's a different product, but the training sessions for all the financial markets trading masterclass people, there will be a lot more sessions going forward, right? You'll have access to where I'm just doing technical analysis, right? Just focusing on that, then focusing on the macro fundamentals, trade execution. Anyway, there's a load of things to be done, and there's only so many hours in the day. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one. Cheerio.